What if you lived somewhere where it wasn't a question of if a disaster will strike, but which one is coming next? Well, for one country, that's pretty much the reality. Today, we're diving into why Japan is the world's most classic example of a multiple hazard zone.
So first things first, what exactly is a multiple hazard zone? It's not just about a place getting unlucky. It's a specific kind of environment where completely different dangers, say an earthquake and a massive typhoon, can exist side by side. And what's worse, they can actually interact and feed off of each other, making the final result so much more destructive.
So, why Japan? What is it that puts the country in such a uniquely dangerous position? Well, the answer comes from two totally different directions, from deep underground and from high up in the sky. To really get a grip on Japan's situation, you kind of have to picture it as a nation that's caught in a squeeze between two massive, powerful forces. One is constantly pushing up from deep within the Earth, and the other is bearing down from the atmosphere. So on one side, you've got tectonic hazards. This is all about the violent, unpredictable movement of the Earth's crust. And on the other side, you have hydrometeorological hazards. I know, it's a real mouthful, but it basically just boils down to dangers created by weather and water. These two categories, they're the source of pretty much every major threat Japan has to deal with. Okay, let's start with that threat from below. Japan's location is just incredible. It sits directly on the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is basically a superhighway intersection for tectonic plates. You've got four massive plates all grinding against each other right underneath the country. The result? We're talking thousands of earthquakes every single year, active volcanoes simmering, and of course, the constant looming threat of tsunamis. It's, to put it lightly, a very violent geological neighborhood. And then you've got to look up to the threat from above. Japan's climate puts it right in the path of incredibly powerful typhoons that just dump biblical amounts of rain. Now, you combine that intense rainfall with the country's landscape, which is mostly steep mountains, and you have cooked up the perfect recipe for devastating floods and landslides, where entire waterlogged hillsides can just let go without any warning. But here's the thing, and this is really the crucial part. These threats don't just politely take turns. This gets to the very core of what makes a place like this so dangerous, the way these disasters can actually trigger each other in a terrifying, cascading domino effect. This is the single most important point. An earthquake isn't just an earthquake. A typhoon isn't just a storm. In Japan, one of these events can literally set the stage for the other, creating a chain reaction where the combined impact is way, way worse than anything the individual events could have caused on their own. Let's just walk through a classic example of how this works. Step 1, a powerful earthquake hits. It shakes the land, fracturing rock and leaving hillsides weakened and unstable. They're basically a disaster waiting to happen. Step 2, maybe a few weeks later, a typhoon rolls in, bringing that torrential rain we talked about. And finally, step 3, all that water soaks into the ground that's already been shaken loose. The result? Widespread, catastrophic landslides. You see, the earthquake set the trap, and the rainstorm sprung it. And believe me, this isn't just a theoretical exercise. In 2011, Japan experienced the ultimate, horrifying, real-world example of a cascading disaster. It was an event that would test the entire nation like never before and reveal the true, terrifying nature of its multiple hazard reality. It all began with a number, 9.0. That was the magnitude of the earthquake, one of the most powerful ever recorded in human history. But the shaking, as absolutely terrifying as it was only the first domino to fall. Just look at how fast this cascade unfolded. At minute 0, the quake hits offshore. Just 30 minutes later, it triggers a colossal tsunami that crashes into the coast. About an hour in, you've got widespread, unbelievable flooding that causes a total failure of infrastructure. And the chain reaction still isn't done. About 24 hours later, the floodwaters from the tsunami disable the cooling systems at the Fukushima nuclear power plant. This triggers a fourth disaster, a technological one that was born directly from the natural one. It's just mind-blowing. One event leading to 4 distinct, interconnected catastrophes. An event of that magnitude forces a question that Japan is constantly trying to answer. How do you possibly build a resilient society when you're faced with that kind of overwhelming reality? It is a constant, high-stakes balancing act between human ingenuity and the immense power of nature. And this slide really captures that central paradox. On one hand, you could argue Japan is the most prepared nation on Earth. They have these incredible early warning systems, strict building codes for earthquake-resistant buildings, massive seawalls. But on the other hand, its vulnerability is just baked into its geography and its population. You have millions of people living in dense coastal cities, right in the path of danger, with the country's whole economy concentrated in these exact same high-risk areas.
This all leads to a really sobering lesson that came out of 2011. Being prepared is absolutely essential, and there's no question it saves countless lives. But that event proved that there are forces of nature so extreme that they can simply overpower even our most advanced, best-engineered defenses. It's a stark reminder that our technology, as amazing as it is, definitely has its limits.
So where does that leave us? What can we take away from all this? Well, Japan's struggle is unique in just how intense it is. But this idea of interconnected risks, of one problem triggering another, is becoming more and more relevant for everyone, all over the globe. Watching how Japan continues to adapt, to innovate, and to survive in its own multiple hazard zone, well, it might just hold some important lessons for all of us.